There's got to be an eye for the interior design part of it. Doesn't need to be anything super fancy, but at least getting some decor on the walls, have a few little fake plants around even, or stuff like that. The plain Jane method, if you're able to have your own place and you want to do that, I would maybe recommend it. But when you're arbitrage, there's big risk and money that's going to have to be coming out of your pocket.
This is the Passive 25K podcast, a podcast built around the vision of creating wealth through passive income for ourselves and others. The idea of creating income while you sleep seems like a dream come true, but for most professionals, turning this into a reality is a different story. On this show, you will hear real people breaking passive income streams down to the basics, giving you the next steps to start your own passive income journey. If you're new to the show, my name is Kyle Reedstrom from Fargo, North Dakota, where I get to work with my team of agents and investors each day to complete our goal of $25,000 a month in passive income. Now, let's get right into our next conversation. This is the Passive 25K podcast with Kyle Reedstrom, home of Passive Income University and Cashflow Coaching if you're looking for a little more of that one-on-one to get your passive income journey started. But today I'm excited about episode 24, how to create cash flow through Airbnb arbitrage, with our guest, Devyn Hoffman. Devyn, good to have you on, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be on. Thanks for inviting me. It's going to be really fun to talk about this. It's the Airbnb boom. It happened this past year, and the arbitrage thing is really fun and interesting to get into, and you don't, have initial cash yourself. So it's going to be a really fun conversation. I'm excited.
Yeah, Devyn, I've been hyping this episode up because this is a topic I've wanted to get on the podcast, man. This is exactly what you said. It's a low cash injection to get into cash flow, if you will.
Right.
And we have tons and tons of people that are curious about passive income, curious about getting into cash flow. But you know what? Sometimes you don't just have $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 waiting around to deploy. And
Exactly.
So the question comes, what's a low cash intensive way to get into cash flow? And Airbnb arbitrage comes up, but it seems like a lot of people don't know what it is. And so first off, don't let me get the cart in front of the horse here. I want you to introduce yourself to our audience a little bit. Tell us about you. Tell us about your journey a little bit. You shared a little bit on your bio, and I'd love to get into that. And then what got you to get into this? That's really what I'm curious about too.
Sure. So I'll keep it brief because there's a lot of interjections in the story in the background to get to this point. But I was born and raised in Jamestown, North Dakota, and after high school there, I went off to a few different universities. I went to college initially just to play football. I didn't have too much on the mind on the academic side of things. So I went to South Dakota for a year, transferred out of there and went to Colorado. And then from there, I suffered my first major injury that took me out of football. So my football career was over and done. But over the course of 2 to 3 years after that, I was trying to get back into it, but my body just kept saying no. So I, went into school with more of the mind on the academic side of things. Went to Minnesota, then transferred back to Colorado, transferred back to Minnesota. I finished school graduating from Minnesota State in Mankato. My degree there is in health, exercise science, and psychology. And then I ended up working at a chiropractic clinic, which now I work there part-time. It's Health Source Chiropractic in North Fargo. There I'm in the mornings from Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then with everything that's been happening with the Airbnb stuff just this year, back in May, I went part-time. And so along that journey with all the injuries, the traveling, and this, that, the other, it came to mind, okay, I need to find another way that I'm able to get, income rather than, just the regular job. So it was when I was in Colorado, I was in Boulder at the time. And so this would have been about 4 years ago. So that's when I first got started with Airbnb, and I did it out of the second bedroom of the apartment that I lived in. And starting out with no money, I started out with $200 was the mattress that I put on the floor in that second bedroom. So that's where it all began. I love the start of my Airbnb story. It was literally a mattress on the floor, no lamps,
Yes.
no nothing. So Boulder, Colorado is an expensive place, and my 2-bedroom apartment wasn't anything fancy. It was kind of low mid tier, and it was still pretty close to $2,000 a month. And so that really helped me to get some income just to pay the bills. And from then till now, and we'll get everything in between, all the money that I got, it went into a bed frame, it went into a nightstand, it went into a lamp, et cetera, all the way down the line to now I've got 5 and coming into this year plus properties, single home families that are all fully furnished and up and running and going. And it's been a wild ride getting all the way to this point.
Man, you had a mattress in a bedroom. That's how you started this. And I mean, when I think of this, I always think of subleasing essentially, but you're doing it on a short-term basis. So you said, hey, I'm paying $2,000 a month for this apartment in Boulder. Right. I got to find a way to subsidize this cost. Right. So you just throw the mattress in the bedroom. I love that. How much tell me about your first booking, right? Because then you throw the mattress down, you take a picture of probably the outside of your apartment building, maybe not the mattress laying on the ground. And then you must have said, hey, I'm going to put this on Airbnb and see how it works. Like, what was your first booking like? Did somebody just come and say, hey, I need a place to sleep type of thing?
Yeah, so I am very transparent even to this day with my listing. So I had the photos of the rest of the apartment and then the photo of the bedroom at multiple angles, and my description specifically said there is only a mattress on the floor. So people knew what they're getting into, and I mean, just life in general. I'm all about transparency. I don't want there to ever be something that's hidden or the fine line type of stuff. So I really believe in that. And so the first guest was actually I'm surprised that he picked my place to stay, because he is a professor at Baylor in the College of Medicine. And so he picked my place. I mean, I was the cheapest place around, and he was only staying there just for one night. He had a conference he was going to at the University of Colorado there. And so I actually got to chat with him quite a bit, and being someone in the exercise science field, and he's in the College of Medicine, it was really awesome, the conversations that we had. But that was my first guest, and he said, yeah, I'm just looking for a cheap place to stay, and your place came up, so here I am. And it all went from there.
Man, and then you said you just kind of snowballed it into the bed frame, the end tables,
Right.
More and more furnishings. I might be mistaken, but Airbnb, I think, started with the vision of just renting out an extra bedroom, renting out some couch space, creating extra lodging for people. And it's so cool to hear that's part of your story as well. So, I mean, talk to me about the light switch that flipped when you did that and it worked, and maybe it worked again and it worked again. Did you start having vision with this? Like, I feel like some people have toyed with subleasing and some of this arbitrage, but this had to be kind of an aha moment for you.
Yeah. So that vision aspect of things, almost everything that I do, I look at how it's going to affect me, whether it's, an hour from now, tomorrow, next year, all the big stuff. And so with that, it was, first just dipping my toe in the water. Airbnb 4 years ago is a completely different story than it is now. And it was something that I didn't want a roommate, but I wanted money from someone else living there. So that's where that fit in perfect. I didn't have to deal with anyone else's, belongings and all of that in there. And so it was actually only about 2 months that I got that going until my back blew out again. And that's where, in my bio, I had back surgery actually. So from that point, I moved back home to Jamestown, stayed in my parents' place, and for probably about a month and a half, things just weren't getting better. I was practically just laying in bed all day, wasn't working, tons of pain. It was just a really bad time. And so I had the surgery here in Fargo, and then that's when I moved here. My brother lived here, and then once I got back up on my feet a little bit, I got my job and moved into my own apartment and started it all over again. So I only had those couple months in Boulder, and now I'm thinking, man, Boulder compared to Fargo, this is a little bit different. So that's where the worries of are people really going to be coming here to stay in Airbnb, started coming into mind. But I put it up, and at the time, and even up until just before this past year, 2022, I was one of a handful of listings. And I don't know if you pulled up Airbnb be in Fargo lately, but there are 100+ listings now.
Yep.
It's insane. So yeah, once I got here to Fargo, then I just kept it going from there with the apartment and thinking to myself, okay, right now I'm in a low-end apartment. Here's my little bit of a rate. I was basically covering rent and expenses, which was awesome. But how can I grow this? How can I expand this? And money is the number one thing. Either getting into a nicer, better place, or being able to afford my own place that I can just rent outside of where I'm currently living. And so at that point, with a fresh job and all the great student loan debt I had and a car payment that I shouldn't have bought years ago, and all of that coming into factor, it led into the following year. I got a little bit nicer of an apartment, so I was able to raise my rates a little better there. And then a year later after that, I had enough money to think, and then this is where the risk side of things come in. I'm all about risks, calculated risks. I should correct that. So I'm thinking and doing all the numbers, and the current place that I was living at, I was getting roughly 700 to 750 a month on average. So over the course of summer and winter, obviously winter being slower months, not getting as much revenue. And so I took that number and thought, okay, if I were to get a 3-bedroom, like a townhouse is what I was looking at, nicer place, I'm going to bump up that rate, let's just say maybe a 20% increase or so. Now multiply that times 2, because I got the 2 rooms, and I'm also living in a nicer place. The numbers all seem to work out, and I said, okay, I'm going to jump. I'm going to see if I can do this, get 2 rooms in the same place that I'm also living in. Took that jump, took that leap. It all worked out. Everything was running great and seamless. And okay, well, now the next hurdle to jump over is going to be a place that is not owner occupied. I want to have, a home that people can just go and have all themselves. And again, even at this time, I was one of a handful of places in Fargo, and it led to, just last year, actually about a year and 2 months ago is when I got my first arbitrage property. So at that point, I was cold calling. People got their listings on Facebook Marketplace, looking for someone to rent, the homeowners or realtors. And I just asked them, like, hey, how about I rent it from you? You allow me to rent it on Airbnb, and I'll pay you a little bit more than what your traditional renter would. I'll furnish the whole thing. Any gains, any losses, that's all going to be on me. That's the risk that I'm willing to take. And so got shut down. That went all down the line until finally the one guy was like, yeah, you know what? That sounds pretty good to me. And so him and I have actually been working together now. We got 2 places that I have arbitrage, and we're going to do a third here this year. And so, at that point, I had enough money saved up that I could fully furnish a place. And then from there, that was the eye opener of, wow, there can really be some money made in this. And so then, the next goal was, okay, I got one. How can I get another?
Yeah, man.
And again, it comes down to the money side of things. I didn't have the funds to get one myself, but just continuing to reach out, and got lined up with a couple of people, and got to five currently, and more this year.
Man, I love that this has been such a progression of a journey for you, because I think a lot of people that are listening right now are curious about how you get, your toe dipped into this, then your leg, then now you're going into the deep water on this, where you're at right now.
Yeah, I got to take the cannonball at some point there.
Yeah. And it sounds like you were able to build it up nice and easy. Like you say, calculated risk, leading with revenue, and buying, stashing that away so you can furnish a single family house now. I love the story. I love it when you went from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom, that next step. I want to get to the tactical side of what you know about this now. And I think people are picking this up, what Airbnb arbitrage is. Because when I first heard the term, I was like, oh, that sounds aggressive. That sounds almost illegal.
it's a very common term now, but I had no idea my Airbnb arbitrage. I'm like, oh, I'm doing
Yeah.
that. That's what people call it, is arbitrage. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was picking up too. You think you're just renting out another part of
Yeah.
where you live, and now people are branding it Airbnb arbitrage,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
it is a kind of under the category of a hack. It's like the real estate term house hack. This is like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm going to be subsidizing my rent, if not to the point of covering it, to cash flowing it. And I need you I want you to define and explain this to me, how this is a win-win for both parties, because the arbitrage aspect kind of lends it towards you're cheating it, or you're kind of taking advantage of a situation, when this can really, really be an awesome win for sellers, or not sellers, landlords, owners.
Yeah.
This can be an awesome win for them too. And
Yep.
obviously, like you said, you've hit some adversity when you're calling people up, you're saying, hey, I'd like to rent out your place at higher than market rent. I'm going to bring everything in there. I'm going to run it, but I am going to sublease it. I need you to agree with that. I need you to know that I'm not going to be the one living there all the time. I'm going to have guests. I'm going to host guests.
Yeah.
Why is this such a big win for the owner that you're working with? And explain how that interaction goes, because I think that's the most foreign concept here, is finding an owner that's really open to this.
Right. And that's going to be the key, is what you just finished with, is finding the owner that's open to it. And initially, like I said, it was a no after a no after a no. I think it's starting to open up more now. Potentially even the same individuals I spoke with before may now have switched over to the other side. But what I liked to explain, what I currently explain to the landlord or the homeowner, is, one, your appliances and everything else that are, inside of the home are being used way less frequently. So, having to replace stuff like that is going to be put over threefold, if not four, because they just don't get used. Another aspect is, just the increased monthly rent. So, say for example, a place they would normally rent it for $1,400. Okay, I'll come in and I'll give you $1,600. So that's $200 more a month, which, as a landlord, typically most of your rent is just going to cover your base of, your mortgage and everything else. The actual cash flow isn't too high. So $200 more a month on cash flow for them is, pretty substantial. And then on the third side of that is going to be coverage. So Airbnb has air cover, which I'm sure you're familiar with. As far as damages that happen to the home, a hole in the wall, a hole in the door. Actually, that's a good point. A hole in the door. That just happened here about a couple of weeks ago in a property. There was a hole in the door. However it got there, that was a bad guess. There's been a couple bad apples, and it'll happen. But so I brought up an air cover request, and I submit the photos and the amount that it's going to cost to replace it and everything else. Airbnb takes their story with the other person, and they take everything into consideration, and ended up getting that air cover request fulfilled. So now that door is being covered and replaced. And so for the homeowner, it's just, there's almost like additional insurance that they didn't have to pay for, or anything as far as maintaining the home or any damages that happen.
Yeah, skeptical landlords is a whole topic matter here. And so I'm loving that you're kind of coming up with some tiers of how you're explaining this to landlords. I'm a landlord, and I really like it. I can't find a lot of holes in it. I'm thinking this sounds like a great win-win. But, I thought of the insurance thing, and you just touched on that. That makes a ton of sense for any sort of damage or vandalism.
Right.
Can you speak at all to like liability issues? Is there additional liability coverage through air cover, or do you have to have a different policy for your property? Do you know?
Like if someone were to slip and fall type deal.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So air cover has up to a $1 million policy. So they cover everything basically from A to Z, which is really awesome. And that, clearly on the host side of things is paid for with the host fee and everything like that. So, I mean, in a sense, paying for it, but it's not like directly or like a side amount that you have to pay for or anything.
Yeah. And I mean, I was thinking through this too. If someone was going to approach me to do this, upping the liability coverage of my own policy and having that the lessee, the person that's leasing the property, have a liability coverage and then Airbnb. I feel like there's some pretty good blankets of coverage there.
Yeah, if you wanted to do that, yeah, you'd be covering everything.
What can you say about like the legality of this? You know, is there's no trouble with this. Essentially, people living in the property that aren't on the lease. But that was a question that came up a lot. How should owners feel about this, like in a legal sense?
Right. So that's where the transparency aspect is huge. I mean, I'm not telling people to do this, but you could say, for example, rent the place and then be doing it. But in your contract of the lease, the term, subleasing or sublet, 99% of the time is written in there. You cannot sublease. Blah. So that's where bringing it up right away to that landlord, if this is something you want to do, that, the verbiage needs to be changed, that it's allowed to have sublease or sub in there. So the legalities of it, just as long as the homeowner themselves are, open to it and the transparency and the conversations are there, it's all good to go.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, Devyn, because the Airbnb arbitrage aspect starts to go down the road of like, hey, I wonder if I can just do this, especially for people that are renting right now. They might be thinking, hey, I've got an extra bedroom that's empty. My roommate moved out at the end of the year. Maybe I should do this. Honestly, Devyn's advice on transparency is probably the best advice that you could get, is just be above bar with all this stuff. And to me, it's very black and white in the sense of you're reaching out to an owner, you're telling them your plans. Contractually, all you need is that term that this is able to be sublet or subleased. And as long as they sign that, you sign that, it's completely an agreement between two people with a dollar amount that you're paying. And then anything over that is obviously yours. So I feel like it's pretty simple, but I want to say sometimes I feel owners might think it's more complicated than that, but it really can be pretty simple.
Yeah, it is. And that's, I mean, you hit it right on the head. It seems like something so different, and it is, because like I said, the boom kind of just happened this past year. So for people that have normally traditional rent on a year lease, and now this information is brought up to them, it's like, whoa. Okay, I hear what you're saying, but there's got to be more. And so that's where the questions come to mind. And I mean, I've had even all those people that, said no to me. They asked me very good questions about it, and they wanted to go learn their own information about it. And so it's still a very new concept. And I mean, there's stuff to learn, every day from that side of it. But one other thing that I wanted to just mention, as far as doing the arbitrage side of things, is, you have to, in a sense, have an eye for home decor, or like interior design. In a sense, you can get away with it if you want to keep it minimalistic and mattress on the floor kind of a deal. But when you're doing arbitrage, there's risk. You are on contract to pay $1,600 a month. And if you just plain Jane throw a mattress in there and, it doesn't look all that great, especially with how many listings are out there now, you may find that you're not getting booked. The next month comes and you only pulled $500. So you're out $1,000 that you had to pay. And now the next month, fingers crossed, am I even going to make enough to cover that rent that, I need to cover for the landlord? And then after that, you have, utilities, and then all the laundry and stuff you got to do, let alone when first starting out, your own hours for the turnovers, for the cleanings. Is this even profitable? I'm making $20 a month. This doesn't make any sense. I'm working, 20 hours. So there's got to be an eye for the interior design part of it. Doesn't need to be anything super fancy, but at least getting some decor on the walls, have a few little fake plants around even, or stuff like that. The plain Jane method, if you're able to have your own place and you want to do that, I would maybe recommend it. But when you're arbitrage, there's big risk and money that's going to have to be coming out of your pocket.
Yeah, and I love that you touched on that, and I want to get into some of those risks for people too, because I'm a very much an optimistic person. I get excited about new ideas, especially when your cash on cash return can be as great as some of the numbers look with this. But There's always risks, right? And entrepreneurs just have to take calculated risk. It's not about avoiding risk. It's about understanding the risk fully, hedging the risk, and then moving forward without, shoot aim before you shoot type of stuff. So I want to get into some more of those risks, and you touched on a few. I want to dive deeper into that when we get back from our break. We're going to take a little break. And like I said, come back with some risks of the Airbnb arbitrage world, that whole industry, what people are doing in that. And then I also want to touch on the market in general, what Airbnb has in store, where you see this going as someone that's in the game, not only locally in Fargo, our area, but nationally. So I'm excited to chat with you after the break.
All right, sounds good.
Hey, wanted to take a quick break from this week's episode, wondering if you've been asking yourself the question, how do I get started in this stuff? Or what are the next steps? Or where are people that are thinking the same way I am, or that are already doing this stuff, people that are on their passive income journey? Well, we were getting this question a lot, and that's why we were prompted to create a community of like-minded investors and entrepreneurs that we call Passive Income University. This is a place where we have a library of videos of things we've done and ways you can educate yourself on the passive income space. Where we've brought in experts and had conversations of people that have done this, are currently doing this, and have completed certain parts of this. We have gathered a collection of tools, information, spreadsheets, checklists for you to use in order to continue on your journey in the passive income space. We are going to learn and grow together in order for us to start, take next steps, and complete our passive income journey. If you're curious about taking your next steps, check out our website at p25kg.com, where you can apply to be a part of Passive Income University today. We are back on the Passive 25K podcast with Kyle Reedstrom. My guest and I, Devyn Hoffman, have been talking about creating cash flow through Airbnb arbitrage. Devyn, you set the stage for us on what this is, how you built this up from one bedroom with a mattress on the floor all the way to 5 single-family houses and counting. Man, I want to get into some of the downside, which it's not because I love talking about the downside. It's because I like for people to know what they might not know and everything around this topic matter. Because my encouragement is that more people would do this. Devyn and I were just talking off camera. How are more people not doing this? How are more owners not into this? It can be such a huge win-win where I, as an owner, have a vacant unit, which, by the way, I hate. And I'm looking at someone that's an entrepreneurial-minded person that's going to care for the property, that they're invested in making it successful, that's going to pay me a little more than market rent, and they're going to find a win in it with their own cash flow. And it can be an amazing build. So I love this, and I want people to do this, but I want to know the risks. So Devyn, you just touched on them briefly, but let's talk through some of these, man. I want to know about the upfront costs, okay? Putting a mattress on the bedroom floor is pretty self-explanatory. But when you're taking on a single-family house, like, what risk is that? You just touched on it. You got to have an eye for this. It can't just be a place with bare walls necessarily. You really want to you have to compete in this marketplace. So what does it look like for an upfront investment to get these going?
Yeah, great question. So that's going to depend obviously on how many bedrooms of a place you have, because your biggest expense is going to be the mattress, the bed frame, the things that are going to furnish the bedrooms. So typically the places that I'm currently doing are between 3 to 5 bedroom. I would say with the 3-bedroom homes, you can get away with probably doing about 6,000. If you want to actually, have it a little bit more higher end, I would say you're looking closer between like 8 to 10,000. Getting more premier or premium mattresses, not getting just the $200 mattress that you can get off of Amazon or whatever.
Devyn, how does that look for you when you're doing these acquisitions? Are you hustling on Facebook Marketplace and picking up used stuff? Are you going into a furniture store or trying to find wholesale? Like, how are you acquiring a lot of your furnishings?
I love that you asked that, because I completely forgot about that aspect of things, but it was a lot of work. So being in the position of little to no money, marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, if I had a log of how many miles that I went North Fargo, South Fargo, Dilworth, all over the place, just picking up one item here, picking up one item there, because I could get it for $5 from this person when normally it's 20. So the gas and miles, I'm still saving money. Man, I was on Marketplace and still am frequently, but every single day I had certain markers, like couches, for example. Whenever a new listing with couches would come on, I'd get a notification. And I'm not just picking up the cheapest stuff that's all ripped up and everything, but just trying to find the deal.
Yeah.
And then when finding a good price with someone, it never hurts to ask if they'll take lower. So yeah, I was hustling and hustling, and I had one of the units, or that first home that I started. It has a 2-stall garage. I had half of it built with stuff that I was kind of preparing for the next one. And again, transparency, I had it in my listing stating that only half of the garage was available. The other half has storage. And then my own personal garage here at home. I couldn't park inside the garage over the winters, which, that sucks. But I had, there were certain things that I had to buy. The price was just right. So I had to stock up my own garage. And so, yeah, I mean, for months on end, I'm picking something here, picking something there, collecting. So I was able to get some, pretty nice stuff, pretty decent stuff for probably over half the cost that, you normally would be able to. But granted, if you do have the money, it will save you a lot of time and effort and miles and everything else to just buy it, ship it, have it at the door. I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to get to that position now, or with like my last home, probably about 90% of it, I just boop, 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 and order to the door. But there was a lot of hard work and a lot of time that went into it prior to just to get started.
Yeah, that's really good transition too. Like you're hustling at the beginning, and then you can get to places where you're shipping new stuff to your door. Are you using the common Amazon, Wayfair? Like what sites are you sourcing some of your stuff for those when you're buying new?
Yeah, mostly Amazon. Just because you get better shipping, and their customer service is a lot better than most other places, a lot quicker with stuff too. So I just hop on Amazon and order things up, have it shipped to the door that way. I've gone to a few local furniture stores when they have deals going on, like Veterans Day or something like that. So just staying on top of different holidays of the year when certain items are on sale, Super Bowl time for your TVs, all that kind of stuff. You just keep an eye on it that way.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. And these costs, unlike a lot of real estate investing, it's a bad investment if it doesn't work. Because if you're buying furniture, especially if you're buying it new, the minute you put it together,
if it fails?
like getting rid of it, it's a reason it's really cheap on Marketplace. It's like 20% of the normal cost, right? Because that could be you if this doesn't work out, But that's a big risk because there's not a lot of resale there. That's a really hard cost.
It is.
But again, it's working towards getting a place furnished so you can cash flow it. And did you say, or I would even ask you this question: what if someone had a place that was only partially furnished? In the name of transparency, could you just say, "Hey, I've got 1 bedroom available now. Now I've got 2. Now I've got 3." Can you build up that way, or is it going to hurt your listing?
Like if you had a 3-bedroom home, but you're only trying to rent out one room, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm talking like moving into getting comfortable with this if you can't afford it. Because I'm thinking any time off market, you're losing money, right?
Right. That route, if it's a 3-bedroom place and you're trying to just get 1 bedroom, I'm not sure that you're going to be able to make enough to cover your costs, kind of a deal. So if you have just a 1-bedroom place, start off with it that way. Yeah. But if you have multiple bedrooms, you're probably not going to be able to make up your costs.
Like, and the numbers of this is they start to add up. That's a big risk with this. And I want people to understand that too. Now, let's use your 3-bedroom example. Normal market, it would go $1,400 a month, let's say. You said, "Hey, I want to do this arbitrage thing for $1,600.
Yep.
The other thing is it's $1,600 plus you're paying for internet, you're paying the utilities.
Yep.
You're mowing the lawn, moving the snow in some markets, right?
Yeah, it can be half on that. I mean, if the landowner is already, regardless, having snow removal and that stuff taken care of, then that's already included for that stuff. But yeah, the utility side of things, that's all me. So yeah, the cost output is closer to $1,850, $1,900 after everything's said and done.
Yeah, I had $2,000 in my head, and all of a sudden that's your break even, right? So
Exactly.
that tells me that you're able to surpass those numbers pretty easily with the right type of listing, right? So and be
Yep.
as open as you want to be on your numbers, but I'd love to hear some of the back end. Maybe some months, maybe do you go negative cash flow with some of these, and then some are you exceeding by quite a bit?
Great question. I want to preface too right away that my numbers and how I got started and everything else versus people that are currently listening and wanting to get into this, it's almost apples oranges. The market, how many places there are, the competition, it is drastically different. Again, I was one of the only options, so that aspect of things is going to be a lot different. Of course, now I preface something. I forgot your direct question.
Just kind of get into those
numbers.
numbers, because I'm thinking if this is an average cash flow play, or if it's like you do have is December, January, February negative cash flow, and then all of a sudden you start building yourself out of that hole throughout the rest of the year. Like, talk to me about how those numbers look.
Yep. So fortunately for me, I've never had a negative month. I've always had positive cash that came back into my pocket. Now the numbers that look as winter is going on currently, they're low, and especially right now with how many other places are available, I've seen it lower than what it was last year, for example. However, I've been able to, since this is a business, that's another thing I want people to know and understand. Being a Airbnb arbitrage, or whether it's just your own place or something else, it is a business. You are a business owner. You are in the service industry, customer service. You need to do more than just have a place available to rent and you go in and you clean it. There's a lot of things in between that happen. But the numbers that come in for me generally for the 3-bedroom example, in the summer months, I get between maybe about 4,000 to 5,000, and in the winter months, I'm close to about 3. If I'm lucky, usually about 3,500.
Nice. And I appreciate you sharing that, man, because I didn't know if it was like, hey, I didn't get any bookings, or if it's like boom or bust. But it sounds like there's some form of consistency. And you touched on one thing I want to go into with the risk as well. This is not like a normal rental that you think of or that you've rented in the past, where you are, you're the 12-month tenant. This is like hotel style. You're in, you're out, and somebody else makes the bed, cleans the sheets, and cleans up after your mess in the kitchen kind of deal. How does that look? And as a risk for people, have you had to find cleaners? Has that been difficult? Have you had to take on that role? What does that look like as far as a risk goes?
Yeah. So, like I said, prior to the middle of last year, I was full time at my job, and I'm there 7:15 in the morning. I typically have usually 50-minute lunch break, and then I'm there till about 6 o'clock at night. So it was that lunch break. Guess what? I'm working. So as soon as I clocked out and I'm on lunch break, I'm eating my food in my car on the way over to the place, and I got to start laundry, got to make the beds, got to clean the messes, and get back to work. The 9 to 5. So initially starting out, I'm doing all of that, and I've gotten to a point now that I work with a cleaning company here in town, and so right now I'm doing about half. So with them, I have them go in and just do kind of the general cleaning, floors, countertops, microwave, fridge, all that kind of stuff. And then I still take care of like all laundry and making and preparing all the beds. So there's a few times that they, if I'm gone, for example, and they're available, that they'll do, the whole place. And otherwise, for the most part, now that I'm part-time and taking more responsibility into this job myself, I'm doing about half.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. And I love that you mentioned the business owner hat. You've got to wear the business owner hat with this.
Right.
And generally speaking, when you're getting something like this started, there's not all this margin to have it managed. Or, we talk a lot about passive income on the Passive 25K podcast. It's a lot of active right away. Yeah. And I want you to speak too. What have you learned about being a host? I mean, you hit it on the head. This is a service business. You're serving people, you're providing lodging, and that means you have to be a host. what are some tips and some advice that you can give people that are like, hey, I'm going to try this out, but I want to make sure I know how to host people on this site?
Exactly. So that's where I know of someone who started their first single family home for Airbnb. And this is a very common theme that I'm seeing across the board with this boom that happened is they've seen and heard all the numbers. They get it up, going and starting, but it's a review system. And if you get bad reviews, no one's going to book your place. And that host aspect of things, I'm not constantly, I shouldn't say that, but initially, after the first day, and depending how long the booking is, I'm checking in with people like, hey, is everything good? Do you need anything? Is there anything that I could do to improve your stay? With one of the newer properties that I started up, I can't believe I forgot this item. I forgot a coffee maker, right? One of the more key essential things for the kitchen. And I checked in with them, anything you need, and they're like, is there a coffee maker here? And oh no, I don't have that. So boom, I went and drove to Target, went and bought one, I brought it over, and I said, hey, I'm sorry, and I can get it set up for you, and do stuff like that. So there's little things that make a huge difference in someone's stay, and it's those things that are going to get your higher positive reviews, which that's the business aspect of it. Once you first have that listing and it says new and there's no reviews on it, people look at that stuff as a guest looking to stay somewhere. And if they see that there's something wrong here, something wrong there, another review here, there's things wrong, they might just pass on it and go off to someone else. Which again, I'm very fortunate. I got in the game early. I've got over 300 reviews. I'm the super host status, which is over a 4.8 overall rating. And so my listings, show up sooner than other people's listings, but it's a lot of work and build to get to that point. And so I want people, when they get into this, if they have the mindset of money, I can almost guarantee it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
Money is a part of it, and there's great money to be made, but the other side of it and the bigger side of it is it's a customer service business. You need to have your mind on the customer, your mind on the guest. Are you fulfilling, their needs to the standards that you want to have met? If you're not, the business will likely, maybe not fail, but it's not going to produce as much as you think, and that money side of things is actually going to start to leak.
Yeah, man. That makes total sense. And dude, I just want to affirm your hustle, Devyn. I just see you, you getting after it. You mentioned, you were back in Fargo and you were broke, and this has been your hustle. This has been your achievement, your mountain to climb.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a cool way. And I have to remind people that if you're getting into this passive income journey, if you're ready to start another stream of income, in a lot of ways, you can't have passivity of funds until you're trading time at the beginning, and right. as you start to gain the funds to leverage yourself, you pay for that time back, and so right. This is a build process. I think
it fights on that instant gratification that we all hear about and know over these past few years that we all, look for and desire. But yeah, there were months on end that I'm doing 12-hour days and weekends, like all the time. But it gets to a point that then you can be passive. It is that growth that you gotta push through.
Yeah, man, I completely agree. And those things can swap. And if you have that vision and if you know where you're going with it and you have those saving habits and you have those and you're building that cash flow, like you said,
that's key. Yeah.
It has a tipping point. And you can start to buy back that time and that energy that you're spending. Right. And so I don't want people to have the idea that this is just flip the switch and it goes right into no work and all play.
That's what's happening, and a lot of them are selling the home that they initially got to do Airbnb, or they realize like, oh, I have to be more active in this. I can't just hire everything out and have the same amount of income. Oh, I can't do this. And so that my projections, just as far as the market and all that, that we kind of touched on, is this boom period. I'm going to say at least 1 out of 4 are going to fall before this upcoming year. They're going to see and realize that this is a lot more work than what they anticipated.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you've touched on that, and I'm glad you were bringing this back because I really wanted to get a a feel for someone that's in the market on where this Airbnb boom that you mentioned is going. And I want to talk local, but I also want to talk national. I mean, with this, would it be fair to say that yes, there's more and more Airbnbs on the market, but there's also more users. There's more people like myself. I think of my wife and I. We were pretty easy going, like get to the next town, book a hotel, people, and we've switched in the last couple years. We almost exclusively stay at Airbnbs now. Maybe that's the family aspect for me personally, but I feel like there is a shift, and so the user market is getting flooded as well. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on where this market is at right now. I know you just mentioned 25% might falter, and then maybe where it's going.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I agree with you that the amount of users is also increasing. So the demand of the homes needs to increase. I just don't think that they're at the same level. For a lot of folks, especially I would say like mid upper 40s and beyond, they're still a little bit more skeptical to it. That shift I've been kind of seeing happen over this past year of having more individuals that are looking to book. Most of it being, kind of just security reasons, and it's weird to stay in someone else's home. It's completely new to them, but the uprising of users is going pretty substantial. It's just the amount of homes that are becoming available to rent is twofold. I think that there's too many that aren't going to be able to stay booked, and especially with newer people starting. Again, it's starting a business, so you got to create a reputation. And now that there's 100 other places, there's a lot of competition that can take away, from your booking. So starting out initially, it can be very sparse. This summer is going to be a great opportunity to see just how much the boom of users, and especially Fargo, is going to hit. Because like I said, I open it up and there's 100 within kind of the Fargo, Forest, Dilworth area, and just to see how much all these places are being booked is going to be interesting. And then on the bigger aspect of things, that's an interesting part that's happening currently. Are some of these bigger cities, like New York City, like big cities, they're starting to create more city mandates or laws, if you want to put it that way, on short-term rentals. And so there have been people, I followed this page on Facebook of Airbnb Superhost. There have been people that have had to quit because the city put up certain laws that don't allow it anymore. That has to be a minimum 30 days or something like that for renters. And so the Airbnbs there are starting to deplete. With that aspect, I personally don't think that that's going to happen anytime soon here. We're in the Midwest. Granted, Fargo's the biggest city in the state, but I don't think it's big enough or causing that much of an issue that local ordinance is going to change any of those laws. It's possible. I don't think that's going to happen here.
Yeah, I got an email forwarded to me in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which is kind of a sister city in comparison to Fargo in North Dakota, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And they just passed an ordinance down there that stated if you're going to have a short-term rental, you have to send a letter out to neighbors within X amount of radius to let them know about it. So it's kind of a gentle little hurdle that's easy to get over, but I do see more and more. The popularity is growing, so there's going to be more attention. Yep. And with all that being said, I want to go glass half full on this. If you're in this game, if you're thinking about this and you want to do it right, all Devyn is saying is if you do it right, you can do it well, and you can have success at this. Yep. So again, if you're going to do this the right way, what I'm hearing, Devyn, and correct me if I'm wrong here, is you're going to have an eye for design because you're in a competitive marketplace now. This isn't just anybody can do it. So you're going to have a place that's really a luxury stay. Think about competing with a hotel room. Those are always crisp, modern, usually, and ready to rock and clean. I think of your listing has to look good. I think of the service has to be there. You have to start to build your reviews. You might have to lower the price and be competitive that way in order to build your reviews. Devyn, what am I missing here, man?
No, that all hits it right there. Especially what you said, having a lower price. Once more and more places started popping up on the market, and I was still early on, and I wanted to gain more reviews, I dropped my price a little bit. I took a little bit of a hit in revenue so I could build more of that longer term, sustainable company per se. So that is something that might have to be done. One thing I like to tell people is there are tiers and demographics. So, for example, one of the houses that I have is a 5-bedroom, and I host up to 15 people to stay there versus a 3-bedroom. Maybe you can support 10 people. So there's different tiers of guests that are looking for places to stay. Now, I haven't kept up on all of the new places that have popped up in Fargo and exactly how many 2-bedrooms there are, how many 3-bedrooms, 4 or 5, etc. So for people getting into the game, that'd be something that I would state to be heavy in your research, be heavy in your studying. Go on the app, search for certain days and see how many listings there are. Hit the filters, hit 2-bedroom, see how many there are. Hit that off, hit 3-bedroom, see how many there are. Find where there's a lack of homes within a certain tier. That might be your best hit. There's couples that have 1 kid, so they only want a 2-bedroom place. And then there's large families that want a big place. And so look at the tiers, look at the demographics, and see where the best place to start is probably going to be.
Yeah, Devyn, that's really good stuff right there, man. Really solid advice. It's like any marketplace. We shouldn't expect that nobody else is doing it, you guys. If we're going to elevate our game, if we're going to do this at a high level, then that's exactly what you have to do. You got to know what you got to research it. You've got to create a strategy. You've got to get mentorship. You got to be around people that are doing this as well.
There's research, there's studying you got to do, there's changing your prices, there's fluctuations. You got to, there's a lot of those outside moving pieces that I think a lot of people don't recognize early on. They think, oh, I just need to get a place, get stuff in it, list it, and I'm going to make money. And it's far from that.
Yeah. And, I love where you're going with this, man. It sounds like you're on a great path to continue to not only improve your cash flow position, but to do this well and serve the marketplace well. But one thing that everybody that's listening to the podcast has in common is everybody has goals. Everybody's looking to create their passive income life or start their passive income journey. I'm curious what your goals are, Devyn. Where do you want to go with this? Give us a little vision of where you're headed. I think it's always inspiring to hear where people's goals lie.
Yeah. Well, this has all been new to me within the past 8 months of getting to this position. So I'm still kind of creating my goals, my vision, exactly how I want it to go. But the passive aspect of it, as far as real estate, was something that I always wanted to get in. It makes sense, especially when it comes to a retirement position. I want to get to a point in time where, okay, whether it was one home or now Airbnbs, whatever, that a property is paid off for. So the income that's coming in, okay, well, that can be my retirement. If I have, even 2 or 3 houses, say if it's $4,000 a month, hey, that's fine with me. So that's how things kind of got started. But now how it's kind of exploding is just trying to be at a point where my involvement is slowly backing out and I'm able to kind of hire and deploy, people to take care and manage the property. I have aspirations of wanting to move back to Colorado one day, but with all the properties that are around here, I don't want to just get rid of that. So it's, it's going to be finding the right fit of somebody that wants to take on a business and essentially be, kind of a partner, but I already have it all laid out. You just got to kind of, fill the spot and I'll teach you all this stuff and everything. And so that's kind of the goal now, is just to create opportunity for someone to have a job. I really like that aspect of things is, the money that I'm making, I'm not just keeping it and hoarding it for myself and trying to have a luxurious lifestyle. It goes to show from when I first started, almost all the money just went right back into it, and creating jobs aspect of it. I just think that's so cool for like other business owners. The clinic I work at, I'm like, isn't it so cool that like you pay us and then we get to live our lives and it's because you started this business like that? I want to do that. And now I'm kind of getting to that point. That's really cool and awesome to have, a quote unquote employee or someone that you're providing work to supply their lifestyle. So yeah, I don't know exactly where it's all going to go, but I have a very, very big mind and I want to see something one day where I have, large plot of land that I can create like a multiple tiny home kind of situation.
Oh, yeah.
Like a centrally located building that would have like a pool and gym or something, but you can rent these tiny homes around it and either stay to yourself, or you have a large group or a wedding or something that comes in, something like that. So I'm just got this crazy vision and dreams.
That's cool, man. That's why I asked, and I love hearing where people are going. I think this is a build. That's why it's fun. I think that's what we're here for, is to build and build together. And so that's why we've created our Passive Income University community. And Devyn, we're so excited where you're going, man. We're going to have Devyn's information in the show notes. If anybody wants to get a hold of him, he'll be one of our guests, our highlighted guests on this podcast. And Devyn, thanks for being on the show today, man. We've really enjoyed it.
Thanks. I appreciate being on here. It's really fun to talk about this stuff. And I just want to help people learn. I mean, I want to be a vessel that people can ask questions and stuff. So I'm grateful you'll pass along my information so other people can get a hold of me if they have more specific questions.
Excellent, man. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been another episode of the Passive 25K podcast with Kyle Reedstrom. If you liked what you heard today, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like this video so we can get more of these conversations out to people that are curious about starting their passive income journey. And if you are thinking about starting your passive income journey, the next steps are to go to our website at p25kg.com and hit apply. This will get you into our application to join our community called Passive Income University, where you can learn everything there is to know about starting and completing your passive income journey. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll catch you next time for another conversation on the Passive 25K podcast.